Hello, everyone. How you guys doing? Welcome to the Saxo Friends podcast. I'm your host, Dave Saxologist. Today, I have a special guest. He is what I would call a mouthpiece whisperer. He's the owner of Jody Jazz, Russo Mouthpieces in Shedville. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you to Mr. Jody Espina. Jody, how are you, brother?
I'm great. How are you, David?
I am doing wonderful, man. I really appreciate your time. I know you're a very busy man, and let me do something with this screen here. There we go.
My
You're a
pleasure.
very busy man, and I appreciate your time, man.
We appreciate your site and your reviews and everything and dedication to the saxophone. So I'm happy to talk to you.
I appreciate it, bro. First thing I want to say is this right here, this
Ah,
giant, this thing is phenomenal, man. It changed my whole sound. Can you talk to me about how you come across that mouthpiece?
well, it's so unusual in several ways. Um, the inspiration was Pharoah Sanders, um, came to one of the NAMM shows, and he showed me a mouthpiece, and Coltrane had given it to him. It was an aluminum mouthpiece made in Italy by Ria. I played it, and it had a good dark sound. It had a lot of resistance, to be honest. Um, but what he asked me to do was make two copies of that mouthpiece and no more. And even though it was Pharoah Sanders, I just business-wise, I could not devote the time to do that. It's a lot of time. Even when you get a great scan, it's never right. And so there's many prototypes and everything, and so to make two, it wasn't a viable project. It stayed in my head for years, and I wanted to make a mouthpiece out of hard anodized aluminum. The hard anodized makes this material harder than diamonds, or as hard as diamonds. And I wanted the mouthpiece in a hard rubber shape, and then it wouldn't be that heavy because aluminum is light. And of course, the hard anodized protects you from the aluminum. They make cooking pots out of this. So, so then I started on the sound profile of the mouthpiece, and I was really working kind of towards what George Garzone would like. And that first one we made was the big tip opening, the 10 star. Um, and and that mouthpiece is funny because I usually say it's like our only mouthpiece with some resistance. So it's got a little bit to push against. It's got a dark, beautiful sound, but when you hit it and pop it, it can go bright and loud, so it can kind of do more than you might think it can.
All right. And hey, I tell you what, man, it changed my playing because I played all of your pieces from I still play the HR. That's the one I play on alto and soprano and the giant. But I've also did the DV, super jet, and the jet. So I know all your mouthpieces and they're all great. So Joe, let me ask you, let's go back from the beginning. How did you get started in music?
Started in music of seventh grade was the first time we could play in band, and I wanted to play saxophone. My parents said, "Well, we got a clarinet from when your brother played, so you playing clarinet." So I said, "Okay." And we had a Benny Goodman record in the house. We had, like seven jazz records in the house, and this was records, vinyl LPs,
Right.
and but so I got into it kind of right away, and I was really happy with the clarinet, and I started. I don't know why I had it even in my head, because most kids all they do is read the music, but I kind of started playing with the records and stuff, trying anyway, and so that's Benny Goodman was my first inspiration. My band director at that time was a great jazz player, flute, clarinet, saxophone, a monster. And so he was an inspiration. And I just started getting into it. Back there, I was in Tampa, Florida. I used to mow lawns for money. And I worked one whole summer after getting the clarinet to buy a saxophone because I always wanted to play jazz, and they don't have clarinet in a jazz band.
Right.
So
What
so
what was
I
your
got
first
my,
saxophone?
oh, it was so bad. I don't even know the name. It was awful. awful. But about a year later, I kept working. Uh, I used to do jobs, I just worked, and so I got the deal of the century, Selmer Mark Six from this beautiful college girl, and she was selling. She was the original owner, and got it for $400. This is
Wow.
it's like 1975 or something, 74, but it was a beautiful, beautiful horn. I still have it. I almost wore it out, truthfully. It's had to have some reconstructive stuff because I've just worn parts of it out. Um, and so yeah, then I played clarinet and sax all the way along, and played in band. And at 15, I got into a band of young kids, like 15 to 17-year-olds, and we booked gigs and we worked a lot. So got lucky with my first teacher because he we read, we did scales and arpeggios, which were written and they had the chord symbol above them. So I was learning chords. But then when we went to play tunes, he'd play piano. Great saxophone player, Junie Farrell in Tampa. He would play a tune like A Train or Girl from Ipanema, or he was teaching me all the tunes you do at those days, what you would do on a wedding or something,
Right.
and or a jazz gig. And so he'd play them, but he'd never give me the chords. And I'd play the tune, I'd have the tune written out, and then I'd improvise by ear. And that's how he taught me. And I think that was a good way, actually. Um,
So you pretty much started out learning by ear then before you did the sheet music for the most part.
yeah, and of course I was in band. I did my
Right.
little 30 minutes a day on the band music, and I was diligent about practice. And by the time I was 14, I was practicing 4 hours a day, and I already had my plan. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to go to USF in Tampa, study classical clarinet, then go to Berkeley in Boston and jazz saxophone. And that's what I did. And then go to New York City. And that's what I did. But I had a detour teaching in Spain uh, at a jazz college and stuff. And I went on the road with Dorsey. Um, but pretty much my plan from 14, I did it.
Okay. So you were a professional. You were on stage real early then, doing your
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
yeah.
What was that like being a kid, being on stage and stuff, playing at clubs or what have you?
It was pretty fun, and we had a gig. This soccer was big at those days, um, and the New York Cosmos had Pele on it, and we
Okay.
had Tampa Bay Rowdies. We had a great guy from England, Rodney Marsh. So that band that I played in, we got the gig playing in the stands. This is essentially Tampa Stadium, same where the Bucks play, and we
Mhm.
would play under the stands. People were walking through, and then they gave us press passes. So we were on the field watching the games. I saw Pele play. And so what that was like is tons of people watching us. We actually, I mean, I was 15. We had groupies, but I was too nice of a kid to deal with it. Uh, you know, but that's what it was like. We were playing gigs and played some clubs, like you said, and weddings, and it was a great experience.
Now,
Yeah.
how were your parents on this? Did they support you or they try to say, Jody, you need to go to college and do whatever? Or how were your
Well,
parents?
they were supportive all the way, and I did a TEDx talk on this. If you just type in Jody Espina and TED Talk, and what I talk about is they were supportive, and they were like, "Do whatever you want to do, but just be the best at it." That's my
Okay.
dad. He says, "You go ahead and be a garbage man. I don't care, but you be the best." And so, but the band directors, several of them would say, "Hey, man, you're never going to make any money if you're going to have to go to college to be an accountant or something.
Right.
Don't major in music." So I got a lot of discouragement in that way from sometimes band directors and this one professional contractor I played from with. He was like, I spend more on lunch in a year than you're going to make playing music in a year." And luckily I didn't listen to those guys. I just went for my plan. I knew if I wanted to be a musician, I really had to practice, just make myself viable.
Yeah.
So,
And you're a great player too, man. I hear you play, and those bands that you know what? I tell you what, when I go to the NAM show, there's two
Yeah.
booths that I have to stop at, and you know one of them is yours. The other one is Cannonball.
Oh
Those are
yeah.
the two because you guys have the greatest players. The impromptu sessions that you guys do. You know, I'm just walking by all of a sudden I see you and three or four other guys. See Jay Metcalf come over there and he pick up the better sacks, and man, it's just such a vibe over there at the NAM show, man.
And I'm hanging on by my teeth, really, because it's been a long time since I had diligent practice, and but I still have hopes. Maybe I'm gonna, in this epoch of my life, get back into it, and because I still really enjoy it. So I keep my toe in the water, but I don't feel like I'm the artist professional that I was or could be.
Do you still
But
practice a lot?
no, that's the thing. And everyone, I'll have a gig. We just had the Savannah Jazz Festival, which have every year in the third week of September. We played for Not Cohen, and she had clarinet player. She had some pretty hard charts. So right now I only read once a year. So I got practicing for that, and then we have sessions. And I sat in with Kirk Whalum. We brought him down and played with another band during the festival. So keep busy. So I get it. Uh, kind of ebbs and flows, my
Right.
practice. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, Jody. How did you go from, being a great player like you are now? How did you go from that to making mouthpieces, man? Talk to me about how'd that evolution start?
I wasn't a, a gear nerd or a gear geek.
Right.
Uh, I'd buy a mouthpiece and play it for a long time. I didn't really know about custom mouthpieces and things. Um, it's a funny thing that gig that I did for this big bands when I was 17 and that leader that really discouraged me. I was playing baritone. I bought a mouthpiece in the store to play this baritone gig with all these 50-year-old men, and come to realize years later when I was in my shop in New York and I found my old shoebox of mouthpieces, I put that baritone mouthpiece on and it didn't play. It's terrible. I couldn't get the low notes, and I couldn't get the low notes when I was a kid trying to play for these famous stars that were coming through. You'd have so that was like kind of eye-opening, and I made sure that we don't make mouthpieces that don't play. Um, so the way I got into it, I met a man named Santi Runyon, and he was a mouthpiece maker. I had played his mouthpiece as a kid on a baritone mouthpiece, which I should have had. If I'd have had that on the gig, I would have been okay. But I bought a Berg Larson, and it was metal. It didn't play.
Right.
The only mouthpiece in the store, local store. But so I met Santi, and I asked him to customize one of his mouthpieces, just to make this long story short. And he customized it for me. I flew down there to Lafayette, Louisiana. He customized it, and I couldn't believe it. It took it from something I couldn't play anymore because it wasn't free blowing enough and it didn't have enough bottom in the sound to something that I absolutely loved. He refaced it for me. He knew exactly what to do. He had said he had did the same thing for Marshall Royal, the lead alto player for Count Basie. Did the same thing on the same mouthpiece for Marshall Royal, and that's what did it for me. I said, I love it. And he said, well, we can make it for you and call it Jody Jazz.
Wow.
And basically, he came up with a name, which I thought was a stupid name. I didn't like it, but I just didn't say, I said, thank you.
It's
So,
ingenious.
yeah, Santi was a genius, actually. And I got to spend the next 5 years with him. I'd travel from New York City 7 or 8 times a year, spend a week in his factory working with his crew, trying to get this mouthpieces right. Because then once I learned what he did by hand was not easy to get by machine and hand that they did. They weren't used to the perfection that I was looking for. Many companies weren't. Like you'd see uneven tip rails and different stuff. And so I got to work with his crew so much, and then I'd go and hang out with him at night. He had a shed behind his house, like a practice studio. And he practiced all day. He was he was a great player. So we'd hang, and I'd pull out information about mouthpieces from him, working on mouthpieces, and that's how it started. And because of that, if you look at the TED Talk, I had the confidence when I got this opportunity to do everything, to start a company, to take all the photographs myself, to build the website, write all the copy for the proper SEO. This is 2000, and the big companies were sleeping. Their websites were terrible. You couldn't learn anything from them. So I knew that a lot of people don't know a lot about Mouthpiece. I was trying to make the website educational from the beginning. We started this thing called Six Questions right from the beginning, where people can punch a button, answer six questions, and I'll write you back and say what I think you should try. And we've done it forever, still to this day.
You do the clinics. I know I see you do a lot of the clinics and the Gen conference and all those things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the clinics. I'll be doing a couple in November, one in Oklahoma, and then I'll be working with the All-State kids for that, and clinics during in the band rooms. The band reps of the music store take me in their van, and I go hit a bunch of schools a day. And then the week after that, I'll be in Utah, doing a bunch of clinics, and usually a clinic in the store. I love that. I was recently in Indonesia, did some clinics, got to play with the local big bands and stuff, and that was more of a playing gig almost, but working with the local music store. I really love that. Working with kids, playing with local musicians. It was great. That band's good in Indonesia. When I lived in Spain and traveled through Europe and stuff in the early 80s, it was a whole different picture around the world, the level. Now the level around the world is quite high in jazz, quite high.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah,
I tell you, you're doing your part, Jody, because you're mouthpieces, brother. They
thank you
said,
very much.
not just because I have you on here, but I am a gearhead, so I've had everything from the Lynx to Myers. I've tried them all, and I keep coming back to Jody Jazz. So your
Well,
stuff
thank
just
you.
works, bro. You know what I mean? It just works, man.
Well, it don't come by, easily, and we have to stay super diligent, even though we have these CNC machines that start the mouthpiece and get it really in shape for us to do our handwork. The machine can go off, the tool can go off, the material sometimes can be a different density a little bit, and then all the measurements are different. And so we're measuring every part off the machine and off the lathe, off the mill. Then we're doing our stuff, measuring again, and then play testing everything. It's a lot of work,
Yes.
but it's the only way that things don't go off the rails in any manufacturing plant. If you're not on it, no matter your process, it can slide
And so
over
now,
time.
if I'm not, are you celebrating 25 years this year, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
All right. Congratulations on that, man.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah. Like I said, your stuff is, and you know what? As a matter of fact, a couple weeks ago, one of your artists, Jason Gay,
Oh man,
yeah, that dude is
blues.
phenomenal, isn't he, though?
He's making new ground. He's showing the way, and the way he's playing what blues guitar players play on saxophone, and he's really excellent. And he's furthering the language of the saxophone, I think.
Yes, yes. And I was in Hawaii for the jazz festival he was at,
Oh, sweet.
and we were supposed to get together, but he ended up getting another gig. He had to go to Maui the next day, so we didn't. Excuse me, but I was able to interview him though a few weeks ago,
Oh,
and yeah, he's a great guy, man.
yeah. Is that interview out yet?
Yes, it's out now. Yeah, you can go on
Okay,
Saxophone. Yeah, you can see it. It's
I'll
on
go
there
check it out.
or on YouTube. Either YouTube or Facebook is on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what he's doing is important. Just like what Derek Brown did
Oh,
for the beatbox thing. Um,
yes.
what George Garzone has done for really his triachromatic approach is very serious
Yeah.
and it's furthering the language. James Moody called me when that thing first came out and said he would like to talk to George about it because he ordered it. All these heavy players were ordering. We made a DVD, but that's and James Moody was still practicing all the time and
Yeah.
he's very interested in it. So and we have a lot of players who have really furthered the language and are at the top of their game. That's huge honor for me. And like you said, at NAM show and different places, I get to sit in with them and play, and it's really cool.
And I wanted to ask you that. How does that make you feel that your mouthpieces are played all over the world, and you and you got Grammy award winning saxophone players playing your stuff all over the world, man. How does that make you feel?
Well, of course, that's like I said, it's a giant honor. Some people think these endorsements are paid or something. They're not. You know, for us, there may be different companies doing different things, but these guys, they're not doing it for because they play it because they like to play it.
Yeah.
And like Kirk was playing, I heard he was playing our mouthpiece. I was in Indonesia another time, way back, and they said, "Hey, we saw Kirk. He was playing your hard rubber." And so then I finally saw him, and he said, "Hey, you've been playing the hard rubber?" Yeah. And so we talked and we worked out a deal. And now he's on the hand hammered, man, and he loves it. You got to try the hand hammered.
You know what? When I come to the show,
Yeah.
I remember picking
Okay.
it up, and
Yeah.
it's got some weight to it.
It does. As soon as you put the horn in your mouth, it's balanced so you don't feel it. But when you first put it on the horn, you feel it. It's
Yeah,
heavy. It's heavy
it's
because it's in the
beautiful,
shape of
man.
hard rubber, it's brass, but it's hand hammered, and that hand hammered really does something.
How long does it take you to make one like that?
Well, that hand hammered, if you take a look at it, it's so beautiful. We have the guy that did Zildjian cymbals for 30 years, and he hand hammers it for me. So we make a blank, we send it up to him. He sends it back. That box that goes up to him of 50 blanks is so heavy. It goes up to Massachusetts. It's come back, and though it's a lengthy mouthpiece, and it took us a long time to figure out how to do this hand hammering and not screw up a lot of the mouthpiece because he hits it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it changes the density of the brass so much that if we cut an unhammered blank and it was making a 7 star, and then when we took the first hand hammered blank and put it on the machine, same program, it cut an 8 star. That's 10 thousandths of an inch difference. For us, that's a big deal. It cut the material differently because the material was so much more dense.
that's all
Yeah.
right, man. It's amazing how the mouthpiece. A lot of people don't know. People when you play saxophone, they just think the horn is what it is. You go get a brand new cannonball, get a new Selmer, but if you got a crappy mouthpiece, that's not going to get it. You have to have a good mouthpiece.
I was just in the music store yesterday taking my daughter for a lesson, and I was looking at the step up poster and stuff, and I'm thinking, my message to parents is as soon as you can, make sure that the equipment works for the student. Make sure some professional plays the mouthpiece, the reed, the horn, everything. And maybe before that first step up horn, get the step up mouthpiece, get a good mouthpiece. Because I see these step up nights, and I go and I have my table there. Dad and mom buy a $3,000 saxophone, and they go home. They don't want to stop at the mouthpiece table because they just spent all that money.
Right.
It's like, well, it came with a mouthpiece, right? He's like, I'm not buying a mouthpiece. But then the student gets it. The horn plays great, right? But it's not that different. And I think happens like a couple weeks later, they're thinking, this is nice, but it's not much different. The mouthpiece is going to make the real difference.
Yes.
And, get the best horn you can, but get a good mouthpiece as soon as you can.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. Now, another thing, how did you come up with the names of your mouthpieces, man? What was your process of the names?
That's the hardest thing, probably for any company. We're coming out with a new mouthpiece at NAMM show. I can't say anything about it, but that's in this some of them, several of them. I have a production meeting every week, and it's a sizable part of my team, and we talk about everything because I really that's part of a giant part of our success is the team that we have and really good people in place for a long time, and they're not afraid to say anything they want. And so a lot of times the names are we throw up ideas. I'll have an idea. Often my idea gets batted down. In the case of this one that's coming out, is not my idea, the name of the mouthpiece. But It is, I think it's the right one. So we just throw stuff out there. You got to think about this stuff because, you know, Ford made a car called the Nova, Nova, and they released it down in Mexico and Spanish-speaking countries. It couldn't sell any because Nova means it doesn't go in Spanish. So you got to check. The Jet was one of the first where I was thinking, oh, this is a cool name because I looked it up in every language. Jet is jet in almost every single language.
Okay.
So, um, so that's a hard part. And, you know, um, some people call them numbers, some people call them religious things.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and I don't have a real good plan for it. Just try and think about the personality of the mouthpiece and something to describe it.
Okay.
And yeah,
That explains it for me, man. Uh,
yeah,
Another thing, the 6 questions. Okay, like
yeah,
for novice, people don't know anything about mouthpieces or whatever. So what is your can you talk to me about the 6 questions about mouthpieces and people want to upgrade or what have you?
yeah. I'm trying to get an idea where they're coming from and where they want to go. That's the basic thing. So the first question is, what mouthpiece do you play now? Exact brand and everything. What saxophone do you play now or clarinet? I want to know, if you're on a student horn, I probably won't be recommending the DV, for example. If you're on a pro horn and the DV is called for, I won't feel bad about recommending it.
Okay.
But so that's one little thing that which horn is not that important because I have new horns and old horns, vintage horns. And I play my mouthpieces on everything, and I don't think it's true that a vintage horn has to have a big chamber mouthpiece. So anyway, uh, what mouthpiece, what horn you're playing, um, what kind of playing do you do? So I'm in band or I'm in a Latin band, I play jazz, or whatever you do. And a lot of people do several things, and that's okay. But I want to know what kind of playing you're doing. I want to know what do you want to change about what's happening right now? People say, I want easier low notes, I want better altissimo, I want to play louder, I'm not loud enough, or I'm too loud. So those type of things. And I want to know exactly how much do you play a week, including what you do with your groups, your ensembles, how much you play a week. And a lot of people have in their mind, okay, I want to practice every day, so they're going to put, well, 7 hours, play the group 2 hours, so 9 hours. Well, I know every day doesn't come out around perfectly. You know,
Right, right.
life happens. So I'll kind of multiply that number times zero point 0.6, and I think I'm at a right number. The reason I need to know that is because if you play less than 4 hours a week, you might have trouble playing a bigger tip opening because your embouchure starts to get too tired. So if you play less, we got to keep you on a lower tip opening. Um, 5, 6 hours, you can start to play the most popular tips. And to play the big tip openings, you probably have to play 7, 8, 9 hours a week if you want to play big tip openings. The last question, what was the last question? We said how many? Oh yeah, very important question. What's the exact reed you play? I need to know the brand and the number. And so I'm thinking, okay, wow, you're on a stock mouthpieces or a classical mouthpiece, and you're playing a 2.5 jazz reed. That's telling me something because normally you're going to be on a 3, 3.5 with that classical tip opening of a 4. I'm taking you up to a 6 now. So, or a lot of times they're on the 3 or 3.5 classical reed with the classical mouthpiece. They want a jazz mouthpiece, so we're going up to a 6 or a 7. We got to go to a 2.5 jazz reed. We got to, that bigger tip opening requires that reed to travel further. And we want not a dry sound usually, like the classical sound that you want. We want a wet cannonball, more in that direction sound. So we need a softer reed.
All right.
So the reed is it's a 1-2 punch, mouthpiece reed. We cannot talk about a mouthpiece without talking about the reed.
You know, I've
Super,
experienced
super
that.
important.
I've experienced that with the reed. Some, like you said, some mouthpieces for some reason the reed it just doesn't go with it though. You know, it's
Well, that's right.
yeah, it's weird.
It could be inefficient curve, facing curve, where that mouthpiece needs a softer reed to work. It could be that the facing curve is short, and that makes a reed play harder because the reed doesn't have as much space to vibrate. So you're vibrating less. That takes a little more effort. So you need a softer reed with a short facing curve. So Santi Runyon, I was in his factory and he had a crazy mouthpiece called the Bionics, really loud. And I said, "Oh, I don't like that one." He says, "Well, I don't think your reed is right for that one." And I didn't believe him. This was when I first met him. I didn't believe him. I thought he just said that because I didn't like the mouthpiece. But later on, I realized, oh yeah, because that mouthpiece got a short facing curve. It's got a real high baffle. It just needed a soft reed to get the best out of it. So every mouthpiece can be optimized. So I encourage people to uh, play the new mouthpiece with a just really short amount of time with a bunch of different strength reeds. It's all about the strength. It's not about anything else. The cut influences the sound a little bit, the type of cut, all that. It's about the strength.
Okay.
So you're getting the strength, so you got the resistance you want and the sound quality, the buzz. You want your low notes to be not too hard, so the reed can't be too hard. If the reed's too hard, your low notes are too hard to get out. If the reed's too soft, your high notes sound whiny and you can't maybe get your altissimo. So it's that perfect match of the strength, getting the sound you want, getting you to be able to play everywhere.
All right. So Joe, let me ask you about Russo and Shedville. So how'd you come about acquiring those? Did I call? Was that correct when I said Shedville?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, definitely, yeah. Um, Shedville was the first one. It came about because I wanted to start making classical mouthpiece, and Jody Jazz is two four-letter words in the classical world.
Right.
So, uh, so I was batting around names. I was going to use kind of the names of my two sons or something, just make something like that sounded classical.
You're right.
And then I remember this guy had contacted me a while ago. He had the clarinet mouthpiece company, Shedeville, and he wanted to sell it. And so I, at the time he contacted me, I wasn't interested. But then I said, well, why don't I buy this mouthpiece company and I'll have a good, well-known name to start with. So I did that. I bought that company. I kind of redid all the mouthpieces, the clarinet mouthpieces. He didn't have sax. At the time, I wanted to make sax and clarinet mouthpieces, classical. So I designed a whole line of classical mouthpieces. Then a few years later, Eugene Rousseau called me and said he wanted to sell. And I was very interested in that. His mouthpieces are amazing. The execution of building the mouthpieces over the years had got very sloppy, um, where they were made and stuff, and the reputation had suffered greatly. Um, but so I had a lot of work to do, and but I loved his designs. I loved his mouthpieces. So I bought that, and at that time I said I'm going to let Shedville focus just on clarinet because that's its origin. It's from France, and it was clarinet mouthpieces. So I sidelined that line of Shedville saxophone mouthpiece, concentrating on Rousseau. We had to take everything in house, which was a monumental thing to recreate Dr. Rousseau's designs in our methods, and that was unbelievable. It was like being on a war footing because all hands on deck for this project. Um, so we got that. I'm very proud of what we did with that company and those mouthpieces. And now this year at NAMM, we're bringing out those Shedville mouthpieces. It's a round chamber classical mouthpiece. We're bringing them over to Rousseau. It'll be the first Rousseau mouthpiece not designed by Dr. Rousseau. Um, so we're going to bring those over to Rousseau. I'm tweaking a few things along the way, and we'll be introducing that at NAMM. So we'll have Rousseau, we'll have a round chamber they never did. And that chamber, whether it's square like a Selmer Sea Star or a horseshoe, or round, it shapes the sound a little bit. You know,
All right.
you shape the sound with your oral cavity and your tongue and everything, but that thing does the similar thing. So it's how it reacts with you, which works best with your horn and everything.
All right. Well, thank you, Jody. Now we got a couple minutes left, so let me ask you about if people want to buy your products, all the venues and all the places that you can buy your products. Can you let everybody know?
Yeah, there, on the website, there's a store locator button, and you type in your zip code or whatever, and it'll show you. And we have the major online retailers, which we really appreciate. They do a great job. Our school music dealers are they're like the backbone of every community they're in. I want to encourage people if you have a local music store and they're good, really uh, shop there, buy your stuff. It's a great resource. In some towns, there's a shop that's got a good selection, and that's priceless because you can go in and try. Um, I want to encourage people to ask for our mouthpieces if they're not in a store, whether it's Shedville or Russo or Jody Jazz. It's very easy for a store to call us up and get it. We don't have a large minimum order. That first order they have is quite doable for a store. Um, so we've just grown organically. We don't have a sales team out. We don't really that. It's just grown organically over the years. And
Name and reputation. This right here does it. Okay. This will get it.
so but the customers really can help us get to those shops that there's many shops that are so conservative. They really don't know actually how much the mouthpiece makes a difference. Even a lot of band directors, a lot of store owners. I give clinics at the NASMD sometimes, which is the National Association of School Music Dealers, and talk about how much this makes a difference. And it educates them. Some stores, they know what the bow does for a violin, but they don't know what the mouthpiece does for
Right.
a horn.
I understand.
So, so
All right. Well, Jody, well, thank you. This has been a pleasure, man. I really appreciate your time, man, and look forward to seeing you in January at NAM. You know,
oh, good. Okay. I know we're busy a lot, but make sure you stop by and say hello.
most
And,
definitely, man. I always do,
yeah.
brother.
Okay.
So I really appreciate you, man.
Thanks for the questions. They were very good questions, and we appreciate your website and your YouTube channel. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you so much, Jody. Ladies and
Okay. All
gentlemen,
right.
Mr. Jody
Bye.
Espina, aka Jody Jazz. You take care, brother.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks a lot, David.
Thank you, Jody.